Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Podcast powered by First National. I am Adam, sitting here with Aaron at the Land and Development Conference. We always appreciate the Real Estate Forums hosting us here. We have a guest today, is Ben Rogowski, CIO of Canderel. He's on a panel later today talking about how to make things work in the current environment, as well as other topics. It seems like there's been a bit of a shift in his panel. Maybe we'll get into that. But Ben, welcome.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
This is funny. Before we started the record button here, the question was posed, like, how do you make it work? And Ben kind of said, well, he doesn't. It doesn't. I was like, well, maybe that's our podcast right there.
Thanks for coming, Ben. Appreciate having you.
So I think we're going to spend some time today on, that's, of course, the short and, I guess, half joking answer. But companies are having to execute in this environment, are having to, pivot. And so we're going to, I think, really talk about the more nuanced version of that answer is, what are you doing in an environment where, condos don't sell out in a weekend and everything's just making great sense?
Just build apartment buildings.
Well, that is
even that doesn't work.
No.
Whoa.
Hey, watch your mouth.
Canderel in the past has built a number of condos.
Unless it's wood frame in Alberta.
Yeah, true. But before we do that, let's just kind of set the stage on Canderel, because I think that's kind of important for the conversation, because how do you make it work for the last 20 years and not how you're going to make it work for the next kind of, 3 or 4 years? And so maybe set the stage with how Canderel's kind of come to be where they are and the pivots that we're looking at now.
Sure. So very exciting time for us. This is our 50th anniversary of being in business. Still privately owned, headquartered out of Montreal, but offices right across the country, with investment development and management personnel in 7 markets. So it's nice to be diversified, especially in this environment. Not all markets are the same. Alberta is doing well, as we heard this morning. Other markets are suffering, more pain than others. Our activities focused around investment in value add opportunities, typically commercial. We are focused on development, predominantly residential, but historically a lot of office, and still a little bit of office now, a little bit of retail as well. Residential historically has been mostly condo, but like everyone else in that industry, we're looking at rental, and we're doing a little bit of it now. And the service business. And the service business is really the side that's grown over the last 10 years or so, to the point where it probably represents 50 to 60% of our revenue. And that's a combination of property management, asset management, leasing services, development management services for third parties, and everything in between.
Which also tends to be nice, flat income, as opposed to development, which is giant spikes.
Yeah, development's very lumpy. Especially, we focused a lot of our development on urban environments, high-rise, transit-oriented. Like, you work for 10 years on a project, and then you get all your money in one day or a couple weeks, and then you move on. So very, very lumpy, and the service business is the total opposite.
It's like an annuity. AUM?
You know what? I don't know offhand, and we don't actually use that as a measurement tool.
Especially because condo, of course, the AUM would decline on your closings.
Yeah. And we don't, we don't manage any funds for others. We don't have any programmatic investment structures in place.
So it's all GPLP on an asset by asset basis?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
We are looking at ways to make life a little bit easier, so we don't have to go reinvent the wheel on every transaction. So we will get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But historically, it's been transaction.
But it's what would be a measurement? Number of assets, like, across the country? Like, you own a bunch of stuff. Like, that's just,
how do you
categorize that?
I could speak about square feet. So at least on the management side, commercial side, it's probably just north of 20 million square feet that we manage, and about a third of that would be property we have some ownership stake in. 2/3 would be third parties. And then in addition to that, it's about 20,000 residential doors that we manage, mostly for condominium syndicates in Ontario and Quebec. And all of that is third party.
Right. Okay.
And then in addition, there's a large development pipeline. In terms of number of units on the residential side in the pipeline, it's thousands. I don't think it's quite 10,000, but it's got to be approaching that.
And how many under active construction right now?
Active construction, we are probably about pushing 1,000. Everything in Toronto.
Condo or apartment?
It's condo stuff we sold some time ago.
Yeah.
We're about to start construction in the next probably 60 days of an apartment building in Edmonton. A couple hundred units, wood frame.
Right. While we're here, let's do this, and then we can talk about future projects. You got these active units under construction. What's the discussion around delivery and closing and the individuals closing?
Yeah, so concern, obviously. We closed a building. So the three that I'm going to refer to are mid-rise buildings, which is a bit atypical for us, but we do have a bunch of it. We closed one about a year and a half ago, and had 96% success rate on closings. And we sold that kind of pre-COVID. So,
And did you 100% pre-sale at the time, or just to meet your finance threshold?
In that case, we did about also 95% pre-sale. We would have done 100, but we just couldn't get there on that project. COVID disrupted it. And then of the, call it 7 or 8 units that it was more. It was maybe 10 units that we either didn't sell or ones we had sold that didn't close. We've only sold one since then, so still sitting on that.
A positive lift on the original sale price and then market price at delivery? Or is it flat?
Probably even, flat in that case. Another more recent example is up at Bayview Village. We've close to fully occupied a building there, 240 units, 99% sold pre-construction or during construction. And I would say pricing is probably flat, more or less, compared to where we sold, because we sold before the market took that last big jump. And so we've got closings coming up later this year. I believe we'll be in good shape.
And are you contacting the owners directly and asking about their financing? Like how forensic do you get with it?
More reactive.
Okay.
I think developers will tell you they're kind of afraid to ask the question. It almost opens the door to a developer being open to an answer they don't want to hear.
What do you do with that information at that point? It's
So, but we
yeah, I guess so. All right, well, let me know how it goes.
Yeah, good luck. We get an early peak though when we're occupying. And you're occupying, 6 or 12 months before you're going to final closings. And usually there's a deposit due at that point in time. So if someone doesn't show up, then they're not going to close. And our success rate's been really high. Like of those units, say we've occupied about 200 or so of the 240. I think we've got 6 who are have pushback.
And what deposit ratios were you using at the beginning?
Probably 15% on average.
Okay. So good. So healthy.
Yeah. Some 20, some a touch lower.
But you weren't doing anything at 5% then?
No. Yeah. No, we've always pushed back on that. That's an option. And yes, the purchasers are personally liable to show up to close, but it's a fight. And who wants to do that? So 5% is asking for it.
Yeah.
And do you see a fair bit of assignments taking place before closing comes due? People that might have been speculating in that.
Yeah, so we're seeing some of it.
No.
Most developers typically, don't allow it. Some of it happens regardless. But on a project where we're, call it close to 100% sold, we're not worried about them competing with our inventory. So we'll let them do it. So we're seeing some of it, not enough to get a gauge as to kind of where the market is for that building. Typically, people who are assigning, have their own personal trouble on the horizon, so the pricing isn't really a good metric for the market.
Is it kind of irrelevant to you as long as somebody, upholds their end of the transaction?
Yeah. And you know what? If someone's not in a position to close, or isn't going to be, like, we're happy to work with them to help facilitate it. Like, we don't want our buyers to be, closing and putting themselves in a bad situation because of it. Like, if we can help, we'll help.
All right, you want to go to today, and what does it look like? I mean, you
No sales centers, we assume. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe how many sites would you have that with potential development ready, kind of zoned and ready to go?
Yeah, so there's one under, I would say, active sales. It's a 3-building project here in Toronto, and
Whereabouts?
Bathurst and St. Clair, right next to St. Michael's. So great site.
Oh, that parking lot where I used to park with my kids' school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I missed that parking lot. But I understand that progress must take place.
Yeah, we are supportive of the development community.
So it's a construction site now. We've just finished the geothermal work for that project, and now working on the final touches of financing to roll into to the rest of construction. Most of the first building is sold, and so there'll be financing for that. And the second and third building, in our business plan, we would have been under sales by now, but we're not there. The market's just not there for it right now, but we've got time.
Do you convert that to apartments?
So we're looking at all options, just
because you have to.
Because you have to. But we've got lots of time there, so it's not. I don't think we'll go there.
Okay.
Well, how far down the list of alternates do you go? I mean, you start at rental housing, then you could go to seniors, student, data center, solar farm. How far down the list of alternates do you get looking at different options here?
It's really site specific. I mean, forget about that one. I mean, the trains left the station. It's a great site.
Yeah, it's zoned and under construction, right?
But really nice neighborhood. Yeah.
But there's a handful of other sites that we own across the country that are zoned, and in original business plans, we would have been starting sales by this point in time, and we're not, because there's no market for it, or we don't like the market that's there for it. So on some of those, we're looking at alternatives, whether it's student residence or rental, as you said, seniors. I don't want to give away secrets, but like some creative ideas, in like between all of
co-living.
those. No, I won't go there. Yeah.
So let's just talk about the economics. You've bought this land, and the price of the development, whatever it may be, plus the cost of the land, plus the cost of the financing, plus the tax, just doesn't add up. Are you off by a couple basis points? Like your dev yield is off by, it's half of what you need it to be to make the decision?
I don't even know. And that's the challenge right now is where we all think the market is in terms, from a condo perspective, in terms of getting buyers to buy units. It's not a matter of you're going to make less profit than you thought. The question is like, how deep is the loss going to be? And so why? Like, why go through the pain and suffering to be worse off than just giving the land away for free?
Yeah.
It's really that challenging right now.
Is it literally that land has to be sold at zero in order for the owner, the next buyer, to make any money on the development?
I
know it's site specific, but
yeah, no, I would say in today's environment, like this moment in time, at the price that the market will probably buy at, not only does land have to be at zero, a bunch of other things, unrealistic things need to happen. So like this is a moment in time where I'm going to use the P word. It's the word like we all hate, our kids hate, like everyone in the world hates the word patience. And that is really what you need right now. Like we
I didn't know where you're going to go with that.
yeah, no, we just need to get through it, because like this is just a moment in time, I believe, where it's really ugly, and we just hopefully have capital in those partnerships that can afford to be patient, and hopefully the banks will continue to be patient, and there will be a better day.
Is it a land buying opportunity right now?
If you can get it at zero.
Yeah, no, you know what? Yeah, and that's not realistic. Like no one's giving it away, and even the foreclosure sales, the first mortgage holder is still looking to come out whole. So maybe, but the bid ask spread has narrowed significantly, but it's not. It's probably not where it needs to be to entice buyers to come off the sidelines.
Like even if values are half, you couldn't just buy it and build an apartment to a dev yield that made you satisfied.
No, well, we just take the lead from what the capital tells us, and the capital is telling us to get them off the sidelines. You need a dev yield on rental that just isn't achievable for the most part in most of our markets. That one isn't far off, but the condo world is just anyone's guess.
Is this really, I mean, so land is the one variable. Is the other variable just hard costs have gone up and are at a level that just still, you can't, because you don't control that variable. And is that really the only other, I don't know, input that's making the math not add up?
I think it's all of it. And I think the problem is our industry is hoping there's a magic solution, a one-stop solution, which and the only the only input, the only person who controls that input that's capable of potentially fixing this overnight is the government.
Yeah.
And it's not just DCs; it's all the government charges. But are they going to show up tomorrow and say, right now we represent 30 or 35% of your cost stack, and so that will be zero? Like, no, that's not realistic. So the reality is the solution needs to come from a whole bunch of places. Construction costs having gone up, does not help, but I think we're probably much closer to the point now where the margin that subtrades are making is proper and reasonable. So like that's not going to drop 25% overnight. It's probably a little bit everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we were doing this podcast when we heard, pro forma is at $800 per square foot buildable, and how that was sort of high end of the market, and we're nowhere near that. Land was still being bought, obviously not at zero. I don't think DCs have gone up drastically, as it is the hard costs that have really kind of rapidly risen that have made those numbers just not spec. Because obviously $800, like you'd never be able to make that get there today, right?
Yeah, it's probably just more about the revenue, not being anywhere near where it was before.
On the condo front, have you started looking at which market's going to come back the soonest? I mean, Toronto's probably going to be a little slower than most. Have you looked further afield to see where condo might work? If not today, come back sooner than Toronto, so you can get back into building condo units sooner?
Yeah, I mean, we're active across the country. We're still big believers in the major markets. So, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, although Montreal historically has been really boom or bust, and the bust lasts for a long time there. We're looking at, or we've always had our eye on Ottawa, on Calgary, on Edmonton. I don't believe those last three are going to be quick to get back to a good condo situation. Alberta, for whatever reason, just high-rise concrete has never really been a sustainable condo market there for that. It's worked more on the low-rise. But we still like Vancouver and Toronto.
Of the seven, you said you have 7 offices across the country. Which is the smallest market? I was trying to think what your smallest market is, and to get an insight to where maybe you're, long in a smaller market.
Well, I'll answer it, but it won't really give you a clue. We have an office in Quebec City, but it's not a development and investment office. It's just property management. We're not looking at anything there. We're unlikely to own or develop. Unlikely to.
And the other 6 are the obvious places in Toronto?
Yeah, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a hard question, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it properly for you. Over the last decade, a big driver of the condo market, and this is maybe a setup, were investors. So what percentage of your buildings do you think were just solely investors, not end users?
75 plus.
Yeah, and that market, that's on average across the market, particularly in GTA and Vancouver. And a lot of that was speculative. A lot of that was, I think, there was this significant ramp up in valuations across the board. Do you think that it comes back? Like, do you think there's ever going to be a scenario in the future where there's 75% buyers, or is that just a one-time thing as we were kind of going through this explosive growth in Canada, right? We were you could feel it back then if you remember. We were going from, I think, sort of a small country to a global country, right?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I come away, I come away from these conversations as the contrarian in me feels good that we're talking about how bad it is and how the good times may never come back to the extent they would. And that's how cycles work. So that makes me feel good when I go home tonight that, maybe we're closer to better days than we are to worse days. It really, I mean, these are famous last words. Like, it really can't get any worse. But like, you really can't do. Did
you not just see that Trump increased tariffs on aluminum and steel? Yeah.
At least in the, like, we're talking about the condo world for a moment. Like, sales can't get any worse than zero.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, it can get worse. I mean, buyers cannot show up to close, and the price of those units can be less than the deposits that you've retained off that original price, and yeah, it can get ugly, but the optimist in me says this is a good conversation to be having about how bad it is.
So call it, I don't know, 4 years ago, whatever you want to call the peak of the condo market, and you'd also see those stats about the number of cranes in Toronto skyline versus all other markets combined and globally. Do we get back to that kind of craziness again? I mean, because I at the time, I remember commenting repeatedly that we're living through an absolute golden era for real estate in Toronto, and that globally we're just having this explosion that's kind of unparalleled. When things do return, are we back to a global forefront of construction or back to a healthier market?
I hope we're back to that. It was a controlled frenzy for a long time, which is pretty shocking that it was able to remain controlled, at least, in the major markets. Do we get back to, exactly what that was? Who knows? But, you look at immigration numbers, you look at how old and depleted some of the some of the stock is in major markets. And it feels like we still have a lot of catching up to do. It doesn't feel like we're that far ahead. And even when you look at the standing inventory numbers and the amount of units we're going to deliver, like, we're not talking about delivering, hundreds of thousands of units in a market that needs 10,000 a year, and so we've got 10 or 20 years of inventory. So if there's an extra 1 or 2 years of inventory being delivered, at some price, those lights will be on. Like, we're not talking about a situation where we've got no appetite for people to move here or to stay here and live here. So I don't think this is going to be years, and I don't think that the best days are behind us for the next generation.
Yeah, I think I agree with the sentiment that there's still an incredible demand, right, for the units. I think it's just an affordability challenge, isn't it? Like if you were selling the units at half what you're selling them at, they'd be scooped up in a second. But of course, you can't build them for that, and it just the math. We're just skating past each other right now.
Yeah. If there are humans that want to live in Toronto, that's undisputable.
Well, I mean, CBC said we need to build 3 million units, and we've built 100,000 or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Like we're nowhere near the number. But that 3 million units was based on an affordability level of like 1997 or something crazy like that, right? Like it was assuming you build these units at prices that are really affordable, and I think that's where there's no alignment right now. And I don't know how you fix that. That's complicated.
I mean, if you look at what condo units are trading at today, like we've all heard and seen some of the investor groups who are coming in and saying, if you've got a block of units, I'll buy them at $750 or $800 a foot. The way I look at that is that's not saying the market today, or it is saying, I guess, for this moment in time, that market is $750 or $800. But those investors, and the money behind those groups is only doing it because their business plan says it's going to get to 11 or 1200 in 3 or 4 years. They're not doing it because they think it'll get to they think it's going to go up 3% a year, and they'll get to 11 or 1200 in our children's lifetime. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that would indicate we're at the bottom of the trough and it's going to go back up.
I hope so.
It can't get any worse, right?
I hope so.
So in the meantime, property management and value add, there's still obviously a lot of activity in there. Any headwinds in that part of the business?
I mean, all the usual headwinds. For us to differentiate ourselves from the competition, we really need to bring creative ideas to the table for our clients. And that's easy to say, but we really think we do it well, and we're proactive with it. And at this moment in time, when people are looking for differentiators, we think that's a competitive advantage.
How's the service business?
I would say it's going well. People, investors out there, I think when we were in that frenzy, capital was looking for the highest return on paper, and investors or clients were looking for groups who had ideas. There's a big difference between having an idea and being able to execute on an idea. 50 years of experience through many cycles, has shown our clients that we are able to execute on our ideas, and a bunch of investors, a bunch of developers as well, fortunately or unfortunately, haven't survived the last few years. Unfortunate for them. I don't wish that on anyone, but it's healthy for our market, and for those of us who have been around a long time, we don't take it for granted. And I think that's the opportunity, because all that real estate is still out there, but there's just a smaller subset of groups who are able to execute on it.
Is there any messaging you want to? We're gonna wrap up now as we're at the 30-minute mark. Is there any specific messaging you want to get out?
No, I think my sales pitch for Canderel, we get our fingers dirty. We're strong in execution. We really pride ourselves on listening well. Everything we've done has been in partnership with others. We act every day as though the money is our own money, even if it's not. We're across the country. We're involved in all different asset classes. And I think the message is be patient, partner with groups who you can trust, who have a track record. And I hope across the cost side of things for developments, that we get some solutions, led by the government, because they've got the biggest lever to pull, and hopefully, the banks and the sub-trades and the consultants and everyone else can put a little bit of water in their wine to make this work.
Hopefully next time we invite you on, you say you're too busy because the controlled chaos, right? That was the term.
Yeah,
that was it.
Return to the market.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks for coming on, Ben. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
great
it.
convo. Thanks to First National for powering the podcast. And of course, thanks to the Real Estate Forums for hosting us here at the Land and Development Conference.